Today, we're going to be talking about the beast. We're going to be talking about his character, who he is, and how the number 666 came into being. We talked about the Antichrist on my last episode. And it's very important for you to understand that these two will be working together. The beast will be the political side with the power and the law to enforce what the Antichrist, the religious side of it, is going to be spewing out. So it's very important to know who the beast really is. So I'm going to be reading today to give you a little basic from my book, The Stone Rejected, chapter 8, just to give you a little groundwork to move forward in understanding where this number comes from and who the beast really is. All right. In the book of Revelations, chapter 13, it clearly states that the number of the beast is the number of a man, the number 666. However, here it is not speaking of just one man as being the beast, but an entire race of men who possess the innate characteristics of a literal beast. In many instances in the Bible, the term man is used in its plural form, meaning more than one man or a nation or entire race of men. This race of men, along with Satan, the dragon, were allotted 6,660 years to rule the earth and complete their wrathful destruction of the earth. So we know that the Hebrew calendar says that we're in the 5,700 and something, years. However, I believe we're much further along than that. I believe we're really closer to this number, the 6,660 years. So, but how is this possible that he has this 6,660 years? It is because, like all spirit beings, angels or demons, Lucifer had been allotted a designated number at the time of his creation. This number is very important because it identifies the role each being will play in the universe. Lucifer's number was 6, and it represents work. He was an angel of work, carrying out the duties for which he was created. The work rule number 6 is fixed and does not change. It forever represents work, much in the same way that God worked 6 days and rested on the 7th, keeping his own created law. And although Lucifer would eventually lose his place in heaven and be cast to the earth as the dragon, he still retained this identifying number 6. After persuading Adam and Eve to sin and thereby relinquish their rights of ownership to the earth, the dragon literally took possession of the earth by default. The number of years he was allotted to rule coincided with his number, 6,660 years. Revelation 12 states this, and you might want to look at some other areas that it speaks according to how Lucifer's days are numbered in a couple of places in the Bible. So it actually confirms that his days are numbered. He had a certain number of years that he would be allowed to rule the earth after he robbed it from Adam and Eve or seduced them into giving it away. So next we're going to help you understand who the beast is through his lineage. Now, once in the earth, the dragon's main objective was to sentence the earth and Adam's descendants to hard labor. To make matters worse, Lucifer's children, those born through Cain, would play a major role in the carrying out of the dragon's diabolical scheme to slave drive Adam's descendants right into the ground. Born with the mind of the dragon and the face of angel, these human hybrids would become willing instruments of Satan's brutal oppression of mankind. Now, most people don't know that America, the name America, comes from the word Amerigo, which actually means work. So we're going to now tell you the first human being who was in this form of a beast. 1 John 3:13 reveals to us the first beast born on the earth, Cain. And here's what 1 John says. It says, "Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one, the dragon, and cut his brother's throat. Cut his brother's throat simply for the reason that his own life was evil and his brother lived a good life." Cain was a beast, and the European Gentile nations he spawned represents the beast of mankind. No other race on earth has crushed, devoured, and trampled the earth and its indigenous people underfoot the way the white race has done. No other race has started and finished 2 world wars, looted, pillaged, and plundered whole continents, and brought death and destruction on a level never before heard of, and for no other reason than they themselves were evil and their brothers lived a good life. Now you know the image of the beast. It is a man. Okay, so basically God revealed to me that the European Gentile nations do not quite understand how they are connected to the dragon, Satan. It's DNA based. You know, in the first part of the Bible, it reveals how the fallen angels cohabitated with women and gave birth to giants, you know, half human, half angels. Now think about it. If the angels did that, and Lucifer was the head or the leader of these angels, he was the first one who did it himself. So Eve would be the first person that he would have had the opportunity on humans to do that with. That is why Cain came in the world so brutal and so evil in his mind to just kill his brother for no reason. It was him in a way coming against God, because he knew God was over him. God was the authority, and he wanted no God over him, just as the Gentiles won't know God over them. Now remember, we are not talking about all European Gentile Caucasian people. We're talking about the defiant, rebellious, disobedient ones who have oppressed, torn up the earth, and destroyed indigenous people and the land. So we're going to continue to help you understand this beast is a race. And don't hate white people. It's like hating someone who's born with Down syndrome or some disease they had no control over. Hate the circumstances. Eve was allowed to be seduced by the dragon, and she brought forth Cain. Cain came as his father, in his character, in his nature, because you have to understand some things about Lucifer. Before he fell as and became the dragon, he was an archangel. We know all that. We've heard the stories, but you don't quite understand. Angels are not all the same color, and they're not all the same look. They have different looks and different attributes. Lucifer was an angel of light. Now, this certain group of angels are only for armies. They go forth and destroy God's enemies, but that's when they're divine and holy, and they have wisdom, as Lucifer had. As the Bible says, Lucifer was given great wisdom, authority, and power. So think of angels in groupings. These angels that are warring angels look differently. Notice Lucifer's name, Lucifer, and it's because he was an angel filled with the fiery power to destroy. He was a destroying angel. He's also a cherub, and a lot of people say cherub, but they don't quite understand all of what that means. So all of the angels in this grouping are white because they're full of light, and I'm going to tell you what that light is for. The light is not just for beauty, and we'll get to that later, but right now let's explain how Lucifer looks. His hair is white. His skin is white. But God went one step further with Lucifer. He actually embedded diamonds and jewels into his skin. You can read this in the Bible. And so you had this being had light reflecting upon light thousands of times over, like mirrors. And his eyes were like an iridescent blue, very light, with a pinpoint-sized pupil. God allowed me to see this in visions and dreams, how this being looked. And so he had a sort of unearthly countenance. He looked like a human being, but he had an unearthly countenance due to his pinpoint-sized pupil in this light, almost sky blue pupil. So now, before he fell, he was a wise, powerful being that went forth, carried out the duties he was commanded. And his duty, as I told you, was to destroy. His duty was to fight. His duty was over thousands of legions of angels to subdue and fight the forces that come against the heavenly realm. That's another story in itself. But the problem with this is he became corrupted because of this great and awesome beauty. But now let me get to why he was white. He was white and bright as a beacon. You know how some animals you see on these little shows have this ability in the ocean to have like a little lantern or some kind of light to attract the things they want to eat or devour? This is why Lucifer was white in the beginning. It was as if he had an ability to cast a spell. And this was used to attract the forces of dark matter that would try to come against the heavenly realm. This light would draw them. And when it drew them, then Lucifer's duty was to subdue them and destroy them if necessary, along with the angels with him. So you'll hear about these angels in the Bible, like the angel who had the sword when Balaam was riding on the donkey and he was standing there. And the donkey could see this great tall angel, but Balaam could not. So these angels have that designated appearance. So you must understand it was for a purpose. Now that is why you also must understand that when these human hybrids were born to Lucifer, they came in the world looking in the same appearance as he does, and with some of the same negative characteristics. Of course, that was after he failed. This destroying power, just like you heard in the stories of Egypt, when God sent the destroying angel to destroy the firstborn of the Egyptians. This would have been the legion of angels that looked like Lucifer. The white angels, piercing eyes, and their pupils are small because the light is so bright that emanates from them that they don't need their eyes to open but so far to let light in. It's very interesting. God is amazing when he reveals things to you. It will be totally what you haven't been taught, but it will be the truth. So now we must understand that Cain was the first descendant of this unlawful union between Eve and Lucifer. He seduced her. He seduced her into eating the fruit, but once she ate that fruit, it was like a drug. It was like cocaine. She had no resistance to him whatsoever. So she went along with whatever he wanted. And when they committed this adultery, this brought this first being from him through her. And that's why it says that Lucifer's offspring would be biting at the heels of Adam's offspring. But in the end, Adam's offspring will crush the head of the serpent. So we must understand these things to prepare for what is to come. And I'm going to read next to you what Cain was like and what a beast really is. Cain was a beast, and the European Gentile nations he spawned represent the beast of mankind. And I read that to you a few minutes ago, how they have destroyed the earth and the indigenous people. A beast is a creature that shows no mercy, has no conscience, lives by base instincts, devours whatever satisfies him, and has no mindfulness or understanding of the ramifications of his actions on his prey or himself. He stops at nothing to gain power over his victims, feels no remorse after the kill, and licks the blood from his mouth until the desire for blood fills his mind, and once again drives him on to the kill. The prophets Daniel, Ezekiel, and John were all first-hand witnesses to the Caucasian nations and their destructive reign of terror, trampling the earth and its indigenous people underfoot. All three Bible prophets, along with the Hebrew people, had endured great sorrow, racial oppression, enslavement, unprovoked aggression, and death at the hands of these early Caucasians, Canaanites, Chaldeans, Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans. And modern-day branch of that family is, of course, Great Britain, America, and those European nations, leaving them wondering the same thing, pondering the same question. Why this particular race of people were so ruthless, so filled with hatred, and in such opposition to God and his laws? And when would it all come to an end? Well, Daniel tells us that there will be 3.5 years, but it really means 3,000 500 years. And this has been going on since before the time of Jesus. This cycle of the Hebrews being trampled underfoot, taken as slaves, and then the Europeans placed themselves in their stead and call themselves Jews. So this has been going on. We must understand this beast that we are basically living inside of. This is Babylon, so you know this is part of the beast. And the European Gentiles are leading the way in preparing for this mark, because think about it, that's the only way that many people would take on the mark who didn't want to. It would have to be a law. And so who's making the laws? The beast. The European Gentiles, the same one that always makes all the laws, whether it was the laws for the Indians on the reservations, or the laws in Japan, or the laws here in America. That is who the beast is. It is the European Gentiles, that branch that will compel everyone, will attempt to compel everyone to take on the mark. The Antichrist will be the religious part, the power that will convince the Catholic Church and convince all Christians, and even convince those posing as Jews that this is Jesus, this is the king they've been waiting for. And so you see, it's like a coming together of these two powers that will crush those of us who know that that's not truly Jesus, Yahshua Messiah. So we had better get this down in our minds so that we will prepare and help others to prepare for what's going on. I just want you to help to understand that this world that you're living in, this illusion of what you think is truth is not truth. It's all a lie. It's all been a deception. Once he took over rulership of the earth, he began to flip everything that God had prepared and created the earth to be. And I think we all know that, but we don't know it in detail because we have become so accustomed to living inside the mind of the beast that it seems normal. It's normal that people kill each other. It's normal that women kill babies. It's normal that men have sex with men. All of these things are the mind of Satan. You see, the tree of knowledge was none other than the mind of Satan, the mind of Lucifer. So when Eve peered over into this tree and ate from this tree, she was weakened. She submitted to Lucifer, and that mind became her mind. And she actually did get the wisdom she sought. It came in her son Cain. He was probably the first progeny, the first one of the people they call geniuses. But nothing he touched was left undestroyed. You see, that's the problem with the European Gentiles. Everything they touch is destroyed because they have that same mindset, that dual mind, knowledge of good and the evil. And it's controlled by forces outside that they don't know and understand exist. And so that's why God had me to name this the lunar leak. They are controlled by the carnal outside forces, those of the Caucasian race who don't submit to God and don't receive Yahshua as their Savior. They are controlled by money, power, greed, jealousy, to the point that they destroy whole nations, enslave whole continents, and cannot even see the ramifications, what we just say about the beast. A beast goes by carnal instinct. He goes and kills. He doesn't think how it affects the animal's family or their community. It's just what he needs at that moment. And a lot of people used to call the moon lunatic. That means the person, in other words, it just means simply the inability to detect the divine essence of the higher power of God. And even if you notice in Revelations 12, it says, when it's talking about the woman and the dragon, the woman being the spiritual and physical part of the 12 tribes and the descendants, who she was covered in the light of the sun, but the moon was under her feet, meaning that she was not controlled by the carnal drawing and that nature of darkness and the powers of darkness that control the European Gentiles. She's controlled by only the light. She's clothed, as Revelation 12, in the light. And those of the black people, or what we call burnt bronze, that was what they were called to be. That was why they were called chosen. They were supposed to be that branch of the burnt bronze people of the earth that did not submit to the lunar aspect. The only limited to this, the lunar, no connection with the power of light. That is what we're trying to say when we say the inability to detect. Now, right now, God has sent out that holy angel, and he's speaking, just as the word says in the Bible, how the word goes forth and nobody has to utter a word, but all creatures hear God when he speaks. And so I believe right now God is speaking to all of his people, no matter what race, to prepare, receive the truth, so that they won't be caught up in this web of deception and lies. And basically, here's some of the lies. You know, I just read something the other day about people angry about people on food stamps and welfare. And I was so shocked and so amazed. I thought to myself, how can they be upset about people needing food when right before Obama got out of office, he signed a check for $30 billion to give to Israel? That's how foolish we've become, how we've been so caught up in the little ball of string that we don't understand what's going on right around us. We're bankrolling darkness. We're helping to finance evil, and we're nitpicking at little things, at the poor, when it's actually Satan using tax money and things that we think are just nothing to bankroll darkness. So we're caught up in this web, and until we step back, disconnect, you won't even be able to see it. I have been to Israel on a couple of occasions, and I, for myself, found out and saw that these billions that America give every year is used for a setup similar to welfare for the Hasidic Jews. Every child that the Hasidic Jews have, they get a check. So if they have 6 or 7 children, they get a check for that child every month. They also get something like little vouchers that look similar to welfare vouchers they used to have here in America years ago. So while everyone is angry and attacking people who need welfare and a little bit of food, billions, 30+ billion was sent this year last year to Israel to bankroll other people and what they need for themselves. While here at home, people are starving, people are homeless, and then if someone is receiving welfare, I heard in Alabama they're going to cut off welfare and make people on welfare, if they're not working, they don't get any assistance. Well, I shot back and said, well, you know what? If you cut off their food and they have to take money to buy their food, then they don't have rent money, then you're going to have homeless. It's a evil, dark force that deceives and deludes Americans into thinking that people don't need assistance and help. And this is one of the highest per capita places, in other words, bills and things that we have to pay out. Electrical, food. I've been in countries where a few cents could, of a few dollars could last weeks buying their food. But here, food is expensive. Housing is expensive. And we've been deluding into thinking that it's wrong to help people who don't have food and don't have clothes and houses, and send billions and bankroll a racist regime in Israel who treat the Palestinians the same way they treated African Americans in the 60s, and still in some cases do. So I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm going to, what you see is what you get. I'm not going to try to cover it and make it sweet. Keep coming back. You'll keep hearing truth.